Thank you. We would like to say thank you very, very much for the invitation to this conference. And congratulations to a great conference. We feel extremely privileged to be here. And we are amazed of the competence in this room. And thank you very, very much for sharing your knowledge and your experience, and for the work that you are doing. Thank you. Really do hope that we can use the power in this room to end sexual violence against children and women. This is not acceptable, and we can do it. We can end these horrific crimes. They're not acceptable. And as you know, I just want to remind you, because I sometimes have to remind myself, that the Sustainable Agenda, Agenda 2030, all states in the world coming together, they said to the world, to everybody, that by 2030, we should eliminate sexual violence against women and children. Elimination by 2030. So we have a lot of work to do. And that includes all parts of society, not only you and the great work that you are doing, but also including all sectors of society, including not at least the private sector. We are here today to talk about a learning game, a preventive tool for children. This is how it looked like at home, at the Swedish citizen. He was recently sentenced, convicted to 4.5 years in prison, having connected with over 60 children online, using social platforms for children. Sorry. And forcing them to pose nude in front of the camera, the web camera, doing really horrific abuse towards themselves. And we just had another case the other day, a man who connected with 154 children. He connected with the children on a popular website for children called, an online game called Star Stable. If you are a horse lover and you don't have your own horse, this is a wonderful game. And he connected with children from 7 years old to 40 years old. And the crimes involved, for example, virtual rape. Everything via the web camera. It has never ever been easier to approach a child than today. And as you know, the statistics says 1 in 5 children in Europe are victims of sexual violence. And around the globe, we are talking about millions of children. I heard an estimation the other day that there are 2.5 billion sexual abuse images on the internet, in total on 859 million websites. So obviously there is a great demand. And we believe that we will never ever end sexual violence if we don't address the demand, the offenders. And once again, it has never ever been easier to approach a child. And this is, in short, the background why we wanted to create a preventive tool, a learning game for children to raise awareness about the risks of online content, focusing on sexual grooming. Always having in mind that this is the responsibility of adults. And every child, they have the right to this knowledge in accordance to the Convention of the Rights of the Child. Article 34 says that the state should protect children from all kinds of sexual abuse, sexual exploitation. This knowledge, of course, should be provided by the state, not by an NGO. It's very funny, we teach children how to behave in the traffic, but we don't give them the tools on how to behave online. We often regulate the use of internet by telling the children that they can use their mobile phones, they could be online for half an hour or just during weekends. But if we compare the internet to a huge city with millions of citizens, we would never, ever allow our children to spend half an hour in an unknown city, would we? No. And once again, children, they had the right to this knowledge. And that is why we created a learning game to be used in schools. That's a place where we can reach all children. So I'm just going to give you a short background because this has been a project going on for many years. We approached the leading university in Sweden when it comes to computer games and serious games in 2013 with the idea of, would it be possible to create a computer game in this regard? And in 2014, a research project was initiated. And they were to look into the grooming process and also if it was possible to develop a game prototype to explore whether a computer game could be used to decrease the risk of becoming a victim of sexual violence, sexual grooming. And the research team, they looked at 12,000 pages of chat logs between children and later convicted perpetrators. And this research is unique, is world unique, because the research that we have globally when it comes to grooming, they look at chat logs between perpetrators and law enforcement, pretending to be children. And it's a huge difference between those kind of chat conversations. And the research team, they could identify, among many things, 4 very common strategies that perpetrators used online when approaching children. Talking about flattery, bribe, nagging, and threats. And based on the result of the research, a game prototype was developed. And the prototype has now been developed into a learning game for school. Children, they have been part of the entire process. We have evaluated the game 15 times, involving 80 children. And children, they were observed when they were playing the game, and we also interviewed the game. And the children, they said that they enjoyed playing the game. They almost at once, after they finished the game session, asked if they could play another time. They enjoyed the graphics of the game, and most importantly, what we could see when we evaluated the game was that the game actually raised thoughts and reflections in connection to online contacts. And that was important because we had a follow-up dialogue after the game session. And the game is now ready for schools, and it's a learning game to raise awareness about the risk of internet, focusing on sexual grooming. It's targeting children 8 to 10 years old. You could be between 2 and 8 players, and it takes approximately 30 minutes to play the game. And it's, now I'm going to, this is tricky. It's a combination of a classical board game, looking like this. And a computer game. It's an app that you download for free to your tablet. And you can see the board game through your tablet. And the research of the tactics and the strategies of the perpetrators, they have been put into totally new context. And the game theme is an adventurous park where each player, they hide a treasure, and in return, you get a set of clues to the hiding place. And the player who first finds another player's treasure wins. Very simple. But during the game, somebody is trying to manipulate the players to reveal their clues, using the same methods as the perpetrator online. They do this by sending text messages. And the game, what it does is that it provides first-hand experience of choices and potential negative consequences of online interactions, focusing on grooming. And it also bridges the differences between the cognitive maturity in young children and the reasoning process that is required to understand the potential risks and consequences. I'm going to give you a glimpse of how it looks like. And without the game, we have, if we don't follow up the game session with a follow-up dialogue, this is just a fun game, and it could be played as a fun game. But we have developed a guiding material that has been elaborated by child rights experts, psychologists, pedagogues, etc. And the follow-up dialogue should be led by an adult, and it's based on the children's experiences playing the game. And the follow-up dialogue includes 2 exercises, which could be made during one lesson in school. And the first exercise is focusing on the strategies that the perpetrators are using. And we ask the children to write down their thoughts on a paper to all the different strategies. And then we based on what the children has written down, we have a discussion in the class around the different strategies. And the second exercise is about focusing on the rights of the child, self-esteem, bad and good memories, where the child could access help, etc. And we have created a number of question cards that could be used. And the children are first working in pair, and then they're working together in the entire class. And the lesson is ended by asking each child to write an exit ticket, to summarize what they learned, but also if there's anything that they want to bring up again, that they want to discuss further. And the teacher is also emphasizing that it's never the fault of the child, it's always the responsibility of the adult, and also once again emphasizing where, if the child is worried, where the child could access help. And this guiding material has been evaluated several times. In total, we evaluated it in 16 groups, and the children were observed when playing, but also when having the follow-up dialogue. And we also interviewed the teachers, because we wanted to find out if the guiding material was working, it was easy to use and access. And many teachers have said before that they thought it was too early to talk about sexual grooming. And they said, you know, my children, they don't have any experience. But they were really, really surprised that the children already had so much experience. And the evaluations also showed that the children really wanted to talk about this. There was a great need. And the teachers have said that the game was a valuable tool for them to use for addressing an issue that normally they find it hard to address. So it made it easier for them. And the children, they said they learned a lot. And especially when it comes to the strategies that the perpetrators are using, and also to get to know where to go. They didn't know where to go. And this was in a school environment. And right now what we're doing in Sweden, we just launched the game, Hidden in the Park, well, this week. We presented it for the Parliament. And we are now beginning a tour from the very south to the very north in Sweden, where we're going to go to schools. We're going to lecture about sexual violence online, to give them the background why a game like this, a tool like this, is needed. And we are able to give this game for free, to distribute it for free to all schools, thanks to the foundation of the Queen of Sweden, World Child Foundation, and the Swedish Postcode Lottery. And we have plans to later adopt this game to be used in other countries. You can't just translate the game, but you need to adjust it to the cultural context, but it's possible. And Joanna, we would like to say thank you, once again, thank you very, very, very much for inviting us and giving us the possibility to tell you about the game. And if you are interested and would like further information and also take part of the research, etc., we are happy to give it to you. So use the contact information that you already got. And once again, we must, and we all agree on this, but we must end sexual violence against women and children. And we believe it's possible. We should have no victims. Ulla, would you like to say a last word?
You are the best.
You are the best. No. We were beginning with a very, very, very famous Swedish song. It's by, you know, the world famous Swedish writer Astrid Lindgren, Pippi Långstrump. She actually wrote the lyrics to this beautiful song. And coming back to what Ulla said, I mean, children should be singing happily, right? We should have happy childhoods. Thank you very much.